Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back! Welcome back to another rock album review show from Musical People and Journeys, because we're on a journey. We have reviewed, or this month, we're reviewing another 8 albums, and that would be 378 albums in total on our wonderful journey of discovering the new and the greatest in the world of rock. And welcome to my panel, to Simon, to William, to Chris, to Trish, and to Ian.
Howdy.
Hi.
So we listen to albums and we tell you what for our listening pleasure. We'll rate them out of 5, and then we'll see if they get into our Hall of Fame or even to our Album of the Year show. Today's show is Witherfall. So Witherfall and their album Sounds of the Forgotten. So Los Angeles-based dark metal, melodic metal outfit Witherfall proudly presents their 4th full-length album, Sounds of the Forgotten, with predecessor Curse of Autumn garnering high praise in Metal Insider, Death and Forever, etc., etc. This is genuinely Witherfall, always going the extra mile to outclass the past, or so what they say anyway. There's a quote here: "We found ourselves writing really depressing melodic songs just about how disappointed we were with all the work we put out into Curse of the Album and then going through the pandemic," says frontman Joseph Michael. "Before that, we thought nothing was going to stop us. Then something did. We felt a bit defeated. So that's how Sounds of the Forgotten started. But we got out of that quickly. The songs ended up writing were more empowering. We have songs with negative emotions, but the overreaching theme is moving forward with prevalence and the epitome of Sounds of the Forgotten." Now, somebody that we do never forget when we hear his sounds, or do we? Simon, Witherfall, heard of them, or is this a new band for you?
This is a new band for me, and they're probably going to wish they could forget about what I'm about to say. So,
Awesome, right.
They hope the sound you make will be forgotten.
yeah. So, time for some melancholic metal. So it's kind of like prog metal in places to me, and it definitely has this sort of like American sound, which is hard to clarify against like European sound, but it's just the way the vocals and guitars and stuff blend. But I'll be honest, right from the opening track, it didn't excite me. And then when a Lonely Path played, which is like that short track, as some kind of like interim story piece, I did actually roll my eyes at it. But it did at least perfectly transition into Insidious, which was a cool track. And then later on they ruin it again with Aftermath. But I get it's part of the story about this big battle and stuff like that. I get it. But just overall, I was not enamored with the album. Their unique sound is just not to my liking. I don't think they're bad, just this kind of like melodic, melancholic metal. I think you have to listen to it at the right place at the right time to really enjoy it. I think it has to almost be consumed as a whole album, not as individual tracks, and that to me creates a lot of weakness, because it's just one whole piece. Then it's not music you can consume in piecemeal, which is what a lot of music should be like. So yeah, I'm sure there's lots of fans of this kind of music and fans of this album, and especially as it's the second one in their story. But yeah, for me, unfortunately, it just completely misses the mark.
Right, well, somebody who never misses the mark for me, let me tell you that. It's William Hall, Witherfall. What do you think?
Hello. So I can only presume they called it Sounds of Forgotten because they intended everyone to listen to it to immediately forget it as soon as it finishes. It's having every song a minimum of like 6 minutes long, as bold as it is. And then in my opinion, all those songs to be as dull sounding and uninteresting as they were for me, it's just, no. There's, again, my listening pleasure, it's not really for me. There's like no energy in it. It's just this blanket sound noise, boring, not very interesting singing. Instruments are there. It's incredibly dull and average for my opinions. And yes, I can't say much more, I'm afraid.
Dull and average. Wow.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Chris, Yes. What?
It's been two really nice setups, and then it comes to me. Okay.
Got three people to choose from here, Nige. Now with this segue, pick very carefully.
I'm going around the screen. Well, it depends on... Just saying.
So, yeah, I kind of have to mirror what both Simon and Will have said. So it's the easy stuff first. It's heavy rock. It goes a little bit into screamo and growler again, but they do it a bit differently. They've got more of that sort of simultaneous counterpoint with the higher pitched vocals at the same time, which does work really well. And I think They Will Let You Down, which I think is convenient in the opening track, which is good. That actually kind of really worked for me. There's some of the songs that feel a bit more they're reflective, they're retrospective on what's happened in the storyline, and others are a bit more aggressive. But there is some really odd track structure. As Will was kind of saying, most of the tracks on the album are either more than 6 minutes long or less than 2 minutes. And it doesn't feel like it's been put together in a way that means that it flows well. I think if you make the cuts somewhere slightly different, then the songs fit together a bit better. There's some of the 6 or 7 minute songs are like there's 3 songs in one there, and there are tempo changes and key changes and just chopping and changing throughout the piece, which is fine if that's the sort of stuff you like to do. And I can see that working quite well if you're doing a stage show and you're on stage and performing the album. But as an album itself, didn't really work for me, and it kind of turned me off to it quite literally. So yeah.
Well, somebody you can never get turned off on ever. We all know this because she's the rock chick. It's Trish. Trish, what do you think?
I after listening to you guys reviews, I think maybe I was listening to a different album. For me, this is very dark, melodic, progressive metal from the start with the opening track, They Will Let You Down, with deep sounding vocals to boot with the music. Then, wow, the second track takes a different, slower pace that I wasn't expecting with Where Do I Begin, which goes to a bit darker in the middle with a twist. All in all, it's a solid hit you with a punch progressive rock album not to be ignored.
Well, somebody you can never ignore. You can never ignore him, can you? Because he's next. Ian. What?
Yeah.
Ian, talk to me.
Right. It is a progressive album. It is melancholic and dark. And I agree, it is a challenging. So much so, I have never ever, listening to these rock albums, I have never heard a key change in any of this genre of signed and power metal. And apparently, neither had the band. Because there is a key change. The band do not change key, but the vocalists do. I'm surprised I'm the only one that's picked this up. They are positively out of key and out of tune on more than 2 or 3 occasions. It was horrendous.
God.
If you want to do songs with different styles, just take a leaf out of ELO, Mr. Blue Sky. That is how you do 2 completely different sounds. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. I know these are actual huge, great big songs, but that is how you do a song with different sounds and tempos and vibes. What they've done here is they've gone, oh, do you know what? We'll do this. The band are playing something else, and then suddenly the drummer's gone, do you know what? I think we'll do this. And then someone's gone off and, oh, I think we'll do this now. It was terrible. To be honest with you, it sounded like a sixth form music project, if I'm being completely honest. That being said, I've never tried to produce an album. So I really want to factor in, I am massively slating this album, but I've never tried to do one myself, so I've got no idea what process you go through to end up with what comes out at the end. Because weirdly, I think they are accomplished musicians and singers, but somehow I agree that those little instrumental tracks, the bridge track between epically long tracks, it was just so disjointed. It'd be interesting to hear how they went about putting this together and what they hope to get. And what they ended up with, I would love to hear them talk about that. But as a piece of work, I never ever want to listen to it again. It was,
Yeah.
not just horrible, but I can't be in. But
No, well, this is prog metal though, isn't it? And people love this sort of stuff. Where with progressive metal, from what I've read and seen, is that they do things differently, and sometimes it's all a bit experimental. Kind of as they're kind of going through with the different sounds and everything. It's really not my cup of tea, and this album also was not my cup of tea. However, I will say there are some moments of brilliance in there, and I find that with a lot of these kind of dark melodic kind of progressive rock metals, and sometimes, and we've kind of some of our favourite bands that kind of go down that dark melodic kind of route are just sensational because there's a lot of constant melodies and stuff through it, and this didn't. It did. For me, it chopped and changed, and it just didn't kind of work. And yet, at some moments, it was like, wow. But again, there was nothing really. There was no hero song in there for me to I would put on my cool playlist or something that I'd want a song that I want to put in there. So it was deeply frustrating. There were some moments of utter brilliance in there, and I go like, oh, and then maybe that key change. Maybe I tuned off because of what Ian was kind of saying, but it didn't. It didn't kind of work for me as an album, but I also recognise that there are some real high quality stuff in there at the same time, but it just didn't kind of all gel or blend for me either. Let's reveal our votes then. Let's find out. Where will they end up in our? Will they end up in Hall of Fame? Doubtful, but let's see what we did. Simon, we'll start with you then. Let's. What did you give this for your listening pleasure out of 5?
A generous 2.
A generous 2. William.
An incredibly generous 2.5.
Cully.
Mine was a 2.5 as well.
Cully, it's
The generous fellas.
Yeah, and I think this might reflect in our scores. I also give it a 2.5. Trish.
I gave it an even more generous 3.
I know what's coming, but spit it out, Ian.
I gave it a generous 0.
Oh.
Can we give 0?
Yeah, of course you can. You can give it a 0. It might not count, but we can give it a 0.
I've done it
That was
loads.
only because I just couldn't understand the musicality of it at all.
No,
Right.
and rightly so. And I think that most of the scores reflect that we saw something in this. Something in terms of the technical ability or something in the composition of the album. We kind of give it, but we just couldn't work with it. No, it's got an average of 2.5. It's 304th an album, list 65th of the year. So, if you like, I think in summary, if you like prog metal, if you like that dark metal, there is something there, and it's definitely worth checking out. Sounds of the Forgotten. Unfortunately for us, I think we want to forget it in terms of, but not as some as bad albums where we really want to erase from our memory from that perspective. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Check out we've got 5 other shows following this one, so check them out. Thank you very much to our wonderful panel, to Ian, to Simon, to Trish, to William, and to Chris. Goodbye for now. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And see you again soon. Keep safe. Bye.
Bye.